Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. She does this every time. Welcome back to 10-Minute Reviews. I'm Jason. This is Freya. And we're bringing you today's video. As always, guys, please hit the like and subscribe. All right, crazy. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're just a small family channel. Me, the fuzzy one, the wife. We just love to read. We love to talk about books and love to bring you guys new books. And we're going to keep doing it no matter what, but we would really appreciate any support you guys might want to give us. As always, guys, check the links down below for links to today's book or author and any other applicable links for the YouTube channel. These videos are on other spaces, too, and may not have those links. So today, I want to talk about an author I've talked about in the past. I just want to talk about one of his other series. We're talking about Jim Butcher, and of course, we know the Dresden Files. Pretty much everybody knows the Dresden Files if they read fantasy and urban fantasy. It's huge. I mean, there was a TV show, only one season long. Special effects were terrible. I've watched the whole season 3 or 4 times. But he's written a few other things, and he wrote a fantastic series called the Codex Alera. First book was The Furies of Calderon. Stop eating the books. Right? We read them. We don't eat them. And oh, it's okay, baby. It's okay. And is Codex Alera. Codex Alera series. It was 3 books, 3 or 4. I want to say it was 3. Furies of Calderon is book 1. And guys, this was fantastic. This was absolutely fantastic. This was one that after I read the first book, I read book 2 the day it was released and book 3 the day it was released. I've got all of them back there somewhere. Just utterly amazing, and it's quite a bit of a departure actually from his Dresden Files. A huge departure. The Dresden Files are urban fantasy. They occur basically modern day. The Codex Alera is your typical high fantasy type of series. You were in your swords and sorcery, Middle Ages adjacent type of world. We've got our humans, but then of course we've got our non-human invaders, not potential allies, enemies, and your human empire that seems to always be struggling with their closest neighbor, which is another empire, and a non-human, I guess, a monster empire, almost woven in a way, very woven in a way, actually, and quite an interesting little empire. Then you've got this aggressor that is some form of non-human monster that it's almost like a bug type of monster that nobody's really been able to defeat. So you've got your human empire, and it's struggling, I suppose. You've got an emperor that is weakening, and no heir in sight, and his heir, I believe, had died. It's been a while since I've read these 3 guys, so some of the smaller details may escape me, and I'm trying not to give spoilers for the big details. So no heir in sight, and the ruler is the most powerful in the human empire because the magic system in here is really, really different. The Dresden Files by Butcher, it's kind of your more typical, in a way, type of magic that we all know from fantasy novels and fantasy series. It's very typical. You've got your wizards, your sorcerers. It's very, very typical. Whereas with the Codex Alera, you have magic users, but they're more elemental magic users, and they do their magic based off of spirits, and everybody has their affinity. Those that have magic have their affinity, but just about everybody has at least a little bit of magic, except for Tabby. Tabby, a boy, an orphan boy, or not orphan, I'm sorry, it's just him and his mother, so I guess a fatherless boy. He has no magic, which makes him very, very, very different from everybody else. And he's also smaller and weaker, but he's pretty clever. He's a tough-minded little kid. So most people have one affinity. For instance, They have an affinity with wind spirits. They're able to summon wind spirits, so they can fly. They can stoke a fire. They probably sweep the sidewalk with wind. Some have affinities with water spirits. They can breathe underwater. They can swim. Obviously, they can swim. Walk on water. Some have affinities with fire spirits. The Emperor has affinities with all of them, and his affinity is the strongest possible. Because just because they have an affinity, you can have three that all have a fire affinity. One can light a match. One can spit a fireball, and one can start a forest fire, or control or put out a forest fire. So not only do they have these spirits, these furies, but they also have different, of course, strength levels. And the Codex Alera deals with quite a few different things. It deals with Tavi's story as he finds out who he is and kind of works his way up, basically in the military and finding out who he is. And as a leader, because again, he's a clever kid. He's a very, very, very clever kid. So he uses his cleverness more often than anything else. Obviously, like anything, he's eventually going to discover he's got magic. And he does. He ends up discovering he has magic and how to use it. But almost everything about what he does is cleverness, from using science, basic engineering that he learns from scholars, as far as things like catapults, stuff like that goes, to even shipbuilding in a very, very clever way in one of the books, to how he makes his allies. He makes allies. He turns enemies into allies. He turns enemies into compatriots, some enemies into friends, some enemies into allies, some enemies he turns an entire army into an army right next to him. He saves enemies sometimes, saves their entire societies in some areas, destroys in other areas. It's a roller coaster ride. It's a roller coaster ride. And if I had to read any 3 books by Jim Butcher, it would actually be these 3, because unlike the Dresden Files, it's this ongoing series. It even says he has plans for another 10, 12 books, which I think will put it up into the 30s as far as the whole series goes. The Codex Alera, it's a trilogy. It's a trilogy that it's done. It's done. You get your ending. You get you get to find out what happens to all the major characters that survive. Of course, I mean, the ones that die, you definitely find out what happened to them. But you get to find out what happens. You get to find out what happens with the Empire. You get to find out what happens with the neighboring empires, with the independent tribes, with the world at large, with the big bad enemies. What happens with Tavi? What happens with his friends, his family, everything. You get to get to actually get an ending. That's one thing with the Dresden Files, is that it's so ongoing, continuously ongoing, and it seems like more and more that Harry Dresden just keeps getting more and more in the crap. The Codex Alera, you get an answer, and it flows very, very well. It's very difficult to put down. It was an awesome series, guys, so really got to check it out. If you are a fantasy fan, if you are a Harry Dresden fan, if you're a Jim Butcher fan, you got to check out the Furies of Calderon if you have not read the series yet. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye now.